Is this thing on? This thing's on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday. Your
There
weekly
we are.
dose of all things Lord of the Rings.
Take two.
Woo, we do this show live every week, and
man, needless to say, we're often flying by the seat of our pants. And sometimes it's a pair of shorts, and it's not enough. Sometimes you need a longer pant leg. You need to dress for the job. Justin, come on.
I know.
We need to dress for the job.
If anyone out there is wants to produce this show, so it can work
come on,
all
join
the
us.
time, please raise your hand and text us because we could use the help. Anyway, Torn Tuesday. We've been doing the show for 12 years. Yes, you saw it, the title. That is show episode 686.
Can't believe it.
I've done more with this man, Clifford Broadway, than I have with my own family.
You are family to me, good sir. You are part of my extended family. And, I love you and I'll do anything for you. You're the absolute bestest. And we're going to have a really great show. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to talk about so many interesting things that are happening with characters off stage that may or may not come on stage for The Rings of Power Season 3, which is now in production. We've got news about the hunt for Gollum. Casting information has come to our ears. And boy, it's going to cause some seismic shift in the conversation because, well, we'll get there. We're not going to bury the lead, but we're going to get to this amazing news. Not only that, you're here for the OneRing.net Torn Tuesday, which means we're going to be filling the airwaves with J.R.R. Tolkien and our wonderful conversations that we have with each other and with you, the community joining us live. We're going to talk to all of you folks and bring you into the conversation with us, talking about the worlds and the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. This is the place to be. My name is Clifford Broadway. That guy right there, that's Justin Sewell. Just phenomenal to have you all here. We're getting closer and closer to Easter weekend, which means you need to pull out your old DVDs and watch The Prince of Egypt. It is time. We're not going to do a Miyazaki minute. We're going to do a DreamWorks minute. And we're going to talk about... No, we're not. I'm totally kidding. But it is that time of year when usually ABC Network would rebroadcast Cecil B. DeMille and his epic The Ten Commandments with Ann Baxter, Charlton Heston, and Vincent Price, and everybody who's in it. But my thing, The Prince of Egypt, every year, right around Easter weekend, we get to put that back in the spinner, in the DVD player. It's going to be a beautiful film. Watch out. I love that stuff. I could talk about it all day. But we're also going to talk about Galadriel. That's right. The woman who will fall in love with and wed Elrond, half-elven. We're going to talk about Galadriel.
We're talking about dudes that died and come back to life. We're talking about Celeborn, aren't we?
Celeborn, well, you know what? Yeah, he did die, and evidently everybody in the Rings of Power universe, which is a different thing unto itself, but everybody...
Stay dead. This show...
No, don't say that.
Hashtag
no.
stay dead.
Hashtag should have been there.
Without Celeborn. Keep him off stage.
No, he should have been on stage from the very beginning of season 1.
But he's
Hashtag
not, so
should have been there.
Entertaining show without him.
Oh my gosh, no. You have an incomplete history. You have a completely incomplete history where Galadriel thinks that she could flirt with Haladriel. I mean, now I'm calling him that. Oh my God, Halbrand, stop it! Now you got it in my brain. Now, I want to talk about all these characters, but we have a line of speculation, and we also have hard news.
But
hard news coming up as well.
Let's save the Prime Video Rings of Power talk for the back half of the show because we got
entirely fair.
We got
entirely
breaking news today. It is Tuesday, April 15th, and you can see the byline right there on screen.
There it is.
Let me bring it up full screen here. It worked. It worked on the first try, Cliff.
It sure did. That's well done, sir. Well
done. The Lord of the Rings Hunt for Gollum movie gets a surprise update. The update is Warner Brothers Picture CEO Pam Abdi, Mike DeLuca on Friday said that the script for Hunt for Gollum is not yet complete, though she expects it to be turned in next month. She says,
okay.
Andy
Wow,
Serkis
they're
doing
working
the Gollum
hard.
film, and Pam Abdi says, we just had a dynamite check-in with Philippa Boyens on Gollum, and I think we're about to get that script in May.
Ooh, wow, that's awesome. That's a pretty good turnaround. Are they all working on it together?
What?
Phoebe and Artie and Philippa, are they all three working on it together? Do we know that?
I believe so. Yeah, it's the same
yeah.
writing team as War of the Rohirrim.
Okay.
So
Phoebe Gittins and our friend Artie Papagiorgio, who came on our show to talk about the War of the Rohirrim, and Oscar winner Philippa Boyens working on the screenplay. Very exciting.
someone said I'm hard of hearing. All right, I'm boosting my levels up. So that's the update on the scripts.
Yes.
We originally reported that the scripts for Hunt for Gollum were due right before Christmas, but maybe not. So we said, according to the studio heads at Warner Brothers, that they just had a dynamite check-in with Philippa Boyens, and I think we're about to get that script in May.
This is very exciting. Now, I want to propose a question, and we'll ask you first, Justin, and then we'll ask everybody in the live chat. And thank you, everybody, all the chatters joining us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and streaming, coming through our Discord. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for being here with us, live from Instagram and everywhere else. But, you know, they do code names, and they always did. Most famous bit of trivia for the hardcore trivia people is that Jamboree was the fake name printed on all the script covers for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Then, 10 years later, it was Little Rivers. That was printed on the Hobbit screenplays. What do you think they're going to call the new Hunt for Gollum screenplay, giving it a secret code name with these bogus covers so that people don't steal it off the coffee table from their office? And so what do you think it would be? We need to speculate. Justin, what's your first guess?
Juicy Sweet.
Juicy Sweet? Okay. All right. The delicious juicy fish from the Forbidden Pool in Ithilien that almost cost Gollum his hide.
There
He
is
almost
a
got
question
taken
from the
out
chat, Cliff.
for that.
Do you
Forbidden
think,
Pool.
Do you think that Hunt for Gollum is just a fake out, and it's not going to be exactly about the Hunt for Gollum?
Well, I think that's an umbrella term of narrative storytelling that will cover a lot of elements, I'm sure.
Do you think Hunt for Gollum is the secret code name? That's what we're getting at. Is Hunt for Gollum the secret code name to throw everybody off the scent?
No, I think the actual title of the film will remain unchanged for all marketing purposes, and for releasing the film commercially worldwide, you have this very big identifiable character name in it, The Hunt for Gollum, and it's familiar because of the fan film as well. But the secret name has to be completely different. Something like, Odds Botkins, or some
the
really
Hunt for Gollum
weird,
is
different
the code name.
No, it's not. No, you are clouding the waters. You are confusing the issue.
No, the chat room is clouding the waters. What? So
no. It is not going to be the story of Jar Jar. That's funny.
Well, let's handle that chat room conversation about the Hunt for Gollum being a pump fake for another story, because we actually have audio.
How could that be?
We actually we have audio, Cliff, from Peter Jackson talking about this. Let's dig up the tape.
But we were also carrying the story on in this scene.
Yes.
Because he's sending him off to meet an important character.
Which is pretty much what happens in the book, isn't it? That Legolas, he unites with Aragorn between here and Fellowship of the Ring, isn't it?
Yeah. They know you know that they kind of know each other because they were involved in the Gollum story.
Gollum, so how does that work?
Well, Aragorn really is the one who tracks Gollum and ends up and finds him eventually in the dead marshes. And he's taken to the elves, and because of the kindness of the elves, and Legolas is one of his keepers.
Yes.
And
In Mirkwood, is it?
in Mirkwood,
Yeah.
and through their kindness, he actually manages to escape. Or has he escaped? Or was he let loose?
So that's like a seventh talking movie that you've just heard.
Good luck, Pete.
No, it's not a film we're going to make. It's a film that we'll never make, but you've just had a little imaginative version of it from Philippa Boyens there that you can...
The Hunting of Gollum.
The Hunting of Gollum.
And a few other things that go on which are really interesting. Saruman's Search for the Ring is also interesting, yeah. Anyway.
Whoa, that's just half the clip. Cliff, your response to hearing from the Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies commentary soundtrack, Peter and Philippa literally saying that's the next movie we want to make.
Yeah, I totally remember that, actually. You have jogged a brain cell that is still working, and, the synapses are still firing off in my skull. I remember that distinctly. My reaction is the same as it was back then. Deliberately planting Thranduil and Legolas conversation where he says, you should go and meet this ranger. You'll learn his real name in time. That was such fan service, but it wasn't jest. Maybe all those years ago, when we were talking about The Hobbit, maybe we were mistaken in saying that's just fan service, because it's the building connective tissue to the next film. And no, I think that The Hunt for Gollum is not a fake title. They're going to make up some kind of jamboree title, as a joke.
Otaku Senpai says the codename is The Great Escape.
Hey, that's actually not a bad idea. Otaku Senpai, that's a really good fake name for the screenplay.
Let me present another option.
The Great Escape.
Let me present another option. Real cinephiles will know.
What?
The Man from Snowy River 2.
The Man from Snowy River 2? The sequel to The Man from Snowy River? That's funny.
That would throw people off the scent. No one's going to pick up that script. You see that script?
That's actually damn funny. That's very, very funny, my friend.
All right, so let's unpack what they just said, Cliff. If they were thinking about this 10 years ago, that means it's been stewing in their heads for 10 years. And when Warner Brothers said, hey, want to make more movies? And Peter's, the first thing is like, yes, we know exactly what we want to make first. So in this clip, they said, first off, Aragorn finds Gollum in the dead marshes. Can we confirm that Hunt for Gollum, we're going to the dead marshes?
Yes, that's absolutely printed in the pages of the appendix in the back of Return of the King.
Is there anything different from the dead marshes than what we saw in Fellowship? Or Two Towers, sorry.
Conditions there would be the same. How do you think, Justin, that Gollum had enough information to give a proper warning to Sam and Frodo and say, don't follow the lights? How did he know so much about that?
It's a prequel to that line?
Yeah.
And then Gollum pulls Frodo from the water because he knows the insanity that's in the water. So we're going to get trippy LSD Gollum in the water having his nightmare?
We're going to get either Aragorn or Smeagol following the lights, and it might be Aragorn who pulls Gollum out of the water and saves his ass from being taken over by the ghouls.
Would you like it reversed?
Or the ghosts.
Do you want to see Aragorn fall in and get that nightmare?
Mm-mm. Nope. I want to see Smeagol fall in and Aragorn pull him out. That would be much more appropriate, actually.
Okay. So, and then they said Legolas keeps Gollum, caged up in Mirkwood for a time, or Greenwood. Mirkwood. No, it's after The Hobbit, so it is Mirkwood.
They're in Mirkwood.
Does this mean Thranduil is in play?
Absolutely. We've been saying that for years.
Lee Pace.
For years.
You know what? Recast everybody, but keep Lee Pace.
My favorite Lee Pace film is called The Fall, directed by Tarsem. Absolutely remarkable piece of cinema. The Fall is one of the greatest films you will ever see, directed by the Indian director Tarsem. But guess what? Maybe they will make a fake name for The Hunt for Gollum and call it The Rise. Instead of the fall, they'll call it the rise.
Rise of Gollum. A question from the
It's
chat.
just the
Will
rise.
there be
Just
any
the
hobbits
rise.
in this? Do you expect any hobbits?
Yes, and here's why. I expect us to learn more about the Rangers of the North, and maybe the narrative will be hovering around Aragorn's people who are protecting the boundaries of the Shire from incursions of wandering orcs and trolls. So it is as likely as anything else that we will meet a lot of other Rangers. And we're going to learn something about the community of Rangers and how Strider became known among the people of Bree, Breeland, Buckland, and the Shire, and how he got to be known as Strider. The men, the dwarves, and the hobbits who travel and commute between the Shire and Bree, back and forth. They're very familiar with this guy. They know who this... If the innkeeper, big old fat Barlaam Butterbur, if he knows more about Strider than you do, because you've been living a little protected life in the Shire, and you haven't met any rangers yet, that means that Aragorn and his people, who are protecting the boundaries of that area, have a long-standing relationship with the people of Bree, and probably other hobbits in the northern north farthing.
Also,
we've been, that's what I expect.
It has been said that, I believe Andy said, or maybe Peter said, that the events of this new movie are taking place after Bilbo's birthday party.
Yep. Okay. Well,
so
that also means there could be flashbacks that go to way before. Yes.
Oh, totally.
Sure.
So we could get Gandalf leaving the party.
Yeah, you could get Gandalf leaving the party because you know what? The Fellowship of the Ring does not establish that he's gone for 17 years.
All right, let's see.
In between the time he leaves and comes back, he's gone for 17 years. But you get an image of him going to the library in Minas Tirith, and you think he's only gone a couple of weeks. But he was gone for 17 years.
We're going back to Hobbiton. We're going back to Mirkwood. We're going back to the Dead Marshes. Let's see if there's anything else that Jackson tells us from the commentary.
And how much you want to bet we're going to meet a lot of Rangers who are all, as a body of people, protecting the boundaries of the Shire.
And fictitious film 3.5.
But what that was, it was a little homage that we wanted to do, and because we'd always wished we could have had Aragorn in these films.
I know, we did actually.
Dearly wanted to be able to have Vigo back in these films.
We did try to figure out a way to get a cameo, even if it was a cameo for Aragorn and actually for Arwen too. We tried to have Liv Tyler in the film because we wanted to just try to make that connection, but we couldn't think of a way of doing it without making it too because we didn't want it to be less than what it could have been. Otherwise, there's no point doing it.
The only thing you could have done was this. It was so slight, and it would have left the audience just wanting more, and so it wasn't worth it.
Arwen, we hadn't even talked about Arwen. Cliff, is this the heralded return of Arwen, Liv Tyler to the big screen?
I will say yes, it's on the table. Absolutely, it is on the table. Problem with that, however, is that narratively speaking, she has nothing to do. Except we could be exploring early parts of the relationship between Aragorn and Arwen. But otherwise, she has nothing to do with the hunt for Gollum.
In with Rivendell? Like he wouldn't be...
Yeah, all over the place. Definitely we're going to be back in Rivendell.
So
definitely.
Arwen... definitely Arwen's involved.
Let's take it a step further. What about Aragorn's mom, Gilraen? What about her?
And
she could be in this too.
Who do you want to play her?
I mean, I've always wanted to play Gilraen. She's busy on season 3 of The Wheel of Time now. But, of course, we're talking flashbacks because within the time frame of the hunt for Gollum, she's already dead. But if there's a flashback sequence where Gilraen brings a very young little kid, 8 or 9 years old, and Aragorn is brought. Yeah, Rosalind. There's Rosamund Pike. I love her so much.
Rosamund Pike, who you can see in Amazon's Wheel of Time, the other big fantasy show from
love
Prime.
her. She's my Gilraen.
She would be perfect as Gilraen.
She would be so perfect, so perfect. But
Aragorn's
again, this
dad,
could
right?
only
Or
be
mom.
useful for flashbacks. Yeah, because she's already passed away by the time we're in the timeline of the hunt for Gollum properly. But I am not going to put it... Look, one of the most famous things that happens in The Return of the King is a flash forward. Arwen is leaving through the forest, and she turns and she looks, and she has a vision, a foresight of the future. And we go into the way, way, way future, where her little boy is already in Minas Tirith with dad, and he's, what, 8 or 9 years old already? So
we've all seen the
if they're going
movie,
to do... If they're going to do flash forwards, it's just as likely that they will do flashbacks. And that means there is a point where
And there was a
Aragorn
flashback
could be
at the
shown at that
beginning
age.
of Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies. I mean, you had the flashback
Well, yeah.
of Thorin meeting Gandalf in the pub,
Lots.
and
Lots of those.
setting things in motion. You have, of course, the creation of Gollum with Smeagol and Deagol
In Return of the
beginning
King.
of
And
So
The Hobbit
flashback-
has big flashbacks to the dwarves fighting with Azog outside the gates of
How
Moria.
important is Aragorn's relationship to his mother in context of Hunt for Gollum? Is this a good way to open the movie?
Yes, it is. It's a way to show how she wanted to protect her son because his lineage made him an instant target by many parties. So yeah, her making an effort to bring that boy to Rivendell and have the refuge offered to her by Elrond. Oh, we have to get to the news about Elrond, don't we?
Look, Peter
It's
Jackson,
about giving the
Peter
boy
Jackson does
refuge.
a good job with flashbacks. They're
He does.
sprinkled throughout the films.
He does.
Too many? Too few? No, just the right. When there's a break, flashbacks present a break from the action. You get the storyline coming up, and then there's a point where a character has a little reflection. And the flashbacks happen when the hobbits are asleep. Aragorn is sitting with them, and he's just smoking his pipe, and he has that flashback. So the flashbacks come at introspective parts. You don't just like Family Guy it, like, hey, remember that one time when, like, no, the flashbacks.
Correct.
Peter Jackson uses flashbacks for introspective character moments, and he's really good at it. And so, do you think Hunt for Gollum should open with a big bang whiz action set piece to herald the great return of Lord of the Rings to the cinema? Or do you think Hunt for Gollum should open with a soft maternal love story, saying and introducing the film as a new type of story?
Okay. Well, that's a very good question, but I'm going to look at what Otaku has said in the chat. Within the Legendarium, Gilraen, Aragorn's mom, dies in the year 3007. Bilbo's birthday party in the films has been changed to Shire Reckoning 1400, which is Third Age 3000. He goes on to say, what I'm saying is there's wiggle room around the death of Gilraen.
Oh my God!
Because there's a
opening?
change, it's a possibility that opens up now, and I'm so grateful that the attentive people in our chat have offered this information. Thank you very much for offering that. Can you imagine it is a story of her and her little boy trying to survive while orcs are after them, and they end up seeking refuge in the hidden river valley of Rivendell, Imladris, and his identity is revealed to one person only. She seeks the refuge with the elves, and when she gets to go up to Elrond, she reveals the truth of who that little boy is. Big close-up on the little boy, and then crossfade into older Aragorn, and there he is, opening title. Dun-dun-dun. There's your opening title. What do you think of that? It's a great idea, actually.
I
really good idea.
really like it.
But I don't know what she dies from. Maybe just old age. Who knows? But the character was not meant to suffer at the hands of the enemy, as happens to Celebrian, coincidentally in the story. So Gilraen could be there, and she passes on, and the little boy has his first encounter with Arwen for the first time, And it's just wild because she's already, how old? She's probably a couple of thousand years old by then.
Well,
Yeah.
so we both agree
That's
on
wild
this
to me.
casting. If you're going to do Gilrayan, Rosamund Pike is the first call. But Cliff,
Yes.
we have.
But she's
we
busy.
Have, we have.
We need a second call. She's so busy doing Wheel of Time. We need some other
We
possibilities.
got a lot of casting to do because folks, they've
Yes.
already said that they've reached out to Orlando Bloom. They're talking to Viggo Mortensen. They're talking to everybody. But one person, we got two people that aren't coming back. First
For sure.
off,
Two people not coming.
Elrond says he won't return to the
Nope.
Lord of the Rings franchise. Hugo Weaving says he doesn't want anything to do with any upcoming movies, including Andy Serkis. He says he's not interested in returning to Lord of the Rings. He's had enough of Middle Earth.
Oh dear, that's a shame.
Cliff, so
That's a
they've got to
shame.
recap. How important is Elrond to the story of Hunt for Gollum?
If you're going to focus on Aragorn and his youth, then yeah, he's important to the story. Because at that point, there is no father figure for the little boy, Aragorn. And they don't call him that. They call him Estelle. They give him a name which is different, and he's raised under a pseudonym so that nobody knows his identity. And look, he's got no other father
figure. The movie's
figure.
gonna have to explain that. I don't understand all the nicknames, but so Cliff,
His secret identity is kept secret. It's that simple.
So we have to recast Elrond.
Yep,
And I love your Rosamund Pike.
I do. I love Rosamund Pike.
And I love the original Rings of Power casting of Will Poulter as a young Elrond. And Will Poulter would be an interesting choice.
Maybe
but
they can bring Will Poulter into the show
I have a better
the
choice.
other Elrond.
I have a better choice.
I'm sorry to make weird noises. I'm sniffling. I didn't mean to do that on camera. But yeah, Will Poulter is obviously the most number one choice.
If Elrond is out, if Elrond is integral to the story, and
Hugo Weaving refuses to come back,
and Hugo Weaving refuses to come back, folks, may I present a wonderful New Zealand actor who they're going to shoot this in New Zealand. So he's a local actor to New Zealand. He is a franchise leading star, just like Hugo was with the Matrix movies. He has a stellar reputation as an actor's actor. And I think he is the right age and the right time and the right persona to play the regal mother or regal father of Arwen.
Who?
Sam Neill from Jurassic Park.
Oh, of course, Sam Neill. That would be wonderful.
I think Sam Neill has the right vocal cadence. He has the right voice and tone for the seriousness of Elrond. I think we've heard rumors over the years that he wanted to be in Lord of the Rings from the get.
Yeah.
This is Sam Neill's time.
That's an excellent idea.
So
excellent idea. Do you want to look at a really good film from 2016 with Sam Neill? Look at Hunt for the Wilder People.
yes,
It's wonderful, and it was directed by Taika Waititi. And
Eravani
Sam
says he
Neill
has a very Middle Earth face.
He is so fantastic. I love Sam Neill. That is an excellent idea.
Can you
Excellent
can you
idea.
hear his voice already? Sam Neill's voice from Jurassic Park. Can you hear him?
Yes, I can.
As
Yes,
Elrond?
I can. Full on. Full
Because
on.
he can do this soft whisper, but the whisper is very dangerous, right? I do
But,
not
you know, he
trust
is a
men.
bit too old, maybe. Jimmy Mack in the chat says, is he too old, maybe?
Dude, you can shave the beard. Like, first off, Elrond doesn't have a beard. Okay. Also,
That's true. Yes.
Hugo wore a wig. I hate to spoil
And Hugo didn't age. Hugo did not age in between the Hobbit films and Lord of the Rings films. He didn't age at all.
So chat room, I really appreciate the support. both for Rosamund Pike as Gilrayan, and I appreciate the support you all have for Sam Neill. Jurassic Park is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. The first movie soundtrack I ever purchased with my own lunch money was the Jurassic Park soundtrack. It means so much to me.
That's
and
awesome.
If I could bridge my Jurassic Park fandom with Lord of the Rings,
That'd be brilliant.
I am there on the biggest IMAX screen at Universal City Walk day one for this movie. Sam Neill,
Kate,
I present
yep.
Sam Neill. Now, question, Cliff.
I like this idea very much.
Wizard?
Yeah, Sam Neill would make a wonderful wizard. Absolutely, he would.
But I think he's a better. If we have to replace Elrond, you need an actor of equal stature in the public sphere that people can respect.
Yes. Katie has an excellent suggestion of Tom Hiddleston as Elrond, and that's a fabulous idea as well. That's also a very good idea.
I see
yes,
the
very
vision.
good.
Especially with Tom Hiddleston, I could see it if they bring back Arwen, Liv Tyler as Arwen. I can definitely see a connection there.
Yes, he did play Merlin. You're right. Spartan 343 has reminded us quite accurately. Sam Neill has already played a very famous wizard, Merlin himself. So yeah, that is true.
That's my fan casting. Since we're looking at replacing Elrond, but Cliff, I have breaking news and I have bad news, and I know this is going to break your heart and it's going to make it more difficult to complete your signature collection.
Tell me.
Your privacy is important to the Guardian. No, Kate Blanchett is retiring from acting. I'm giving up.
Oh no, that is really, really bad news.
That means no most talented. Galadriel.
Wow.
Cliff.
Retiring from acting.
How important is Galadriel to the hunt for Gollum's story?
Not so much, really, but it's always nice to have her there in Middle Earth because she's amazing, and that's a knock to the system, isn't it? That's a real blow to the overall craft of actors. Her absence
to the art
is
profession.
A blow.
Yes,
to the acting profession. Yeah, that's wow. Well, hey, did she say more about her motivation for retirement? I haven't heard about this.
Let's take a look. I have not registered.
But then again, also remember that Miyazaki has threatened to retire, and then years later, he comes back and makes another film. And then he says he's going to retire again. And then he lies to us, and Miyazaki comes back and makes another film. I think he's done that 2 or 3 times now. So, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Garf in the chat room says, is Elrond's twin sons important to the story of Hunt for Gollum?
Only if they can invent a way to pull them into the narrative. We're talking about Eladan and Elrohir. It is worth reminding everyone on the show that after they were married, Elrond and Celebrian had 3 children. The twins, Eladan and Elrohir, and then their daughter, Arwen. And that's the only child that we see in all of the Lord of the Rings movies is Arwen. We don't once see the other 2 boys at all. We don't see them at all. So yeah.
So a bigger picture now. Kate Blanchett's out. I mean, we don't need Galadriel, but they would. Do you think they should exclude Galadriel and let Morfydd have her moment right now in this era that we are in?
Oh, I don't think they're not giving any calculus. That is not in their calculus at all. Whatever is happening over there is way over there with Prime Video and their show. It will have 0 impact on what they're designing and crafting for their New Line Cinema version of Middle Earth. I wouldn't. If I were in the producer's chair, which I note I am not, yeah. I'd say we're taking the long way round. No, there's no real reason to have Eladan or Elro here. There's no real reason to have Galadriel, but it would be nice if they did.
Jimmy Mack,
maybe
it's safe to say that it's going to be led by story. I mean, we just heard from Peter Jackson himself that they couldn't find an authentic way to shoehorn in Aragorn and Arwen in the Hobbit movies, so they didn't, right?
So
the story comes first when it comes from Fran, Philippa, and Peter, and that's really good. But Cliff, now I have to ask, if you're recasting Galadriel, you're recasting Elrond, you're casting Gilraen, possibly casting Elrond's twin sons. Do you just go full bore and recast Legolas and Aragorn?
You could. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I can see a subplot, an unrelated subplot with Elrond's wife, Celebrian, being attacked by a company of orcs in the mountains, and then her two boys come to rescue her. A whole different side plot that has nothing to do with the main plot of what Aragorn and Smeagol are doing. But, if you're going to have to recast Elrond, you might as well put it on the table that you might recast Viggo instead of going through the de-aging process.
Well, so we went to WonderCon. We had a sold-out panel. Folks, we want to thank you all for lining up for our panel. We were told we turned away over 50 people. They were just standing room only. We missed you, Cliff. We know you're a busy man on the weekends. But it was a packed
Lots of weddings.
room. It was one of the most packed panels at WonderCon this year, according at least that's what the organizers told me. I asked the audience at WonderCon face to face. I said, "Do you want de-aging of Viggo and Orlando Bloom?" And someone yelled out, "No, recast." And the entire room
Someone yelled that out from the crowd? Wow.
Someone yelled it out from the crowd, said, "Recast." And the entire room erupted in applause. That's where the pulse of fandom is at WonderCon. I saw it with my own eyes. Garf, you're in the chat room. You can validate this. You were on the panel with me. The room at WonderCon of leading Lord of the Rings fans that are willing to go to a panel at a convention made it clear they would prefer recasting than de-aging using AI.
Okay, guess what? I have it. I have your next younger Aragorn. I have it. Guess who? Can you guess?
No.
Jacob Elordi. Jacob Elordi from Saltburn. Saltburn, my friends.
What?
Jacob Elordi is my first nominee to be the new Aragorn. What do you mean, what? Don't roll your eyes at me. Them's fighting words.
Let's bring this up.
Jacob Elordi, there he is.
He looks like a hobbit.
No, he doesn't. He's totally young Strider material. No, what does the chat say?
What was he in? I'm sorry, we were batting 1,000.
Saltburn.
Cliff.
He's been in great movies and shows.
He was in Euphoria.
Oh my God, no! Stuart Townsend is not.
He was Elvis.
We're not going to go.
Priscilla. I loved Priscilla. The story of Elvis. He was Elvis in Priscilla.
Yes, he played Elvis. That's right.
He's playing Frankenstein.
he was he's in the TV show Euphoria. And
Saltburn was his big break. Okay, I get it.
Saltburn was his big break, and
I'm not buying it. Nope, I'm not.
He's got another movie coming out very soon called On Swift Horses. And guess who's in that movie with him? Guess who's in that movie with him?
I'm not guessing. Just tell me.
Will Poulter. Will Poulter and Jacob Elordi are in a new movie that's about to come out, and they're in this movie together. But I think Jacob Elordi is a great candidate for our new recast Aragorn. What do you think? What do you think, chat?
man.
What?
Who was
Who's
that guy
Alexander
in,
Dreyfus? Alexander Draymond. I do not know Alexander Draymond, and I should. Okay, I'm going to look him up.
Should Aragorn be American?
Alexander Draymond. Okay. Who is this guy? Yeah.
You know what? I didn't even want to get into a fan casting of Aragorn right now, but
I'm totally down for fan casting. He was in American Horror Story and The Last Kingdom.
Yeah.
Okay, that's who he is. Okay.
All I know is
I didn't know his name.
If you're recasting Galadriel and you're recasting Elrond, and Ian McKellen's already said he wants to come back. Andy Serkis coming back as Gollum. He's also directing. I know there's an attempt to get the band back together, but Ian McKellen, he looks the same as he did. He's a Maiar. He still looks like Gandalf. Gollum still looks like Gollum. But men age. Men just age. Liv Tyler still looks like Arwen, so she can still pull off Arwen.
Numenorian descendants age far, far slower, and that is why Eowyn has this little bit in the extended version of Two Towers where she's like, "You can't be 86. You can't be," and she is.
Okay.
She is completely shocked that. Scott Eastwood, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Scott Eastwood is also a good one, but I would go with Jacob Elordi. That's my first vote.
So that's we're moving on to Rings of Power. So
Boyd Holbrook. Boyd Holbrook is another great idea. He's great in the Sandman series.
Let me ask you this, Cliff. Most of the cast of Lord of the Rings were not superstars. In fact, it was Orlando Bloom's first movie ever.
This is very true. We must remember that.
So are
how about
these characters
an unknown person?
Are these characters powerful enough to completely take an unknown?
Oh my God, Katie, you're right. Royd Tolkien. Let's get Royd Tolkien. He would be wonderful. Oh my gosh, that's a great idea.
We're crossing the streams.
That is a fantastic idea.
We're crossing the streams. Don't cross the streams.
Speak for yourself, sir.
Okay, all right. All right, so that's the big news. The Gollum script is due to the studio next month in May. Hugo is out. Kate Blanchett is out. So recasting will be required. But we do have a taste that they're going to the Dead Marshes. They're going to Mirkwood. So call up Lee Pace right now.
Call up Lee Pace right now. He is the most brilliant thing that happened to the casting of any elf in the history of elves.
Oh, he was
ever.
The best. He's so good.
He was the best. He was the best.
We've got new leaks from Rings of Power Season 3, which is, according to sources, supposed to start filming at the end of this month in the UK.
Really? They start principal photography at the end of April? Wow.
They start principal photography at the end of April. That was originally planned. We've already had some casting announcements, but Jennifer Salke, the head of Amazon Studios, was recently let go and not replaced. So there's a new executive in charge of production for Rings of Power. And the first thing that he does,
what?
What's
this?
He cancels the Tomb Raider show with Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Oh, they've had that in development for quite a long time, haven't they?
So the new boss comes in town. The new boss, after Jennifer Salke is out at Amazon, and they're already trimming some budget. So the Tomb Raider show at Amazon is dead.
Okay, wow. That means Phoebe Waller-Bridge is not working on that anymore.
Embracer owns the Tomb Raider franchise. Embracer, of course,
that's right, they do.
Middle Earth Enterprises. So it's this weird web of connections. So new management over on, or a new boss taking over production at Amazon. So they're already cleaning house. Tomb Raider is done. But,
wow. How much money did they waste in developing that show over the past couple of years?
So does this mean that, what is that? Does this mean that they could make revisions to Rings of Power with the new boss? And could they delay the start of Rings of Power?
Yes. Yep. That's just as likely as anything. Look, Hunt for Gollum announced a whole 1 year delay from what they had originally announced. So do not be surprised if Prime Video says we're going to alter our schedule and change some things up.
Brad,
do not be surprised.
Further. First off, if you're going I just want to say, if you have to delay, Amazon, we told you this before season 2. If you have to delay and get the scripts right.
Yes, that's right. Agreed.
That's simple. So Fellowship of Fans got some scoops this week. First off, casting call for a sea captain, age mid-20s.
What? Show me that full screen. What does that say? Oh my goodness.
You didn't hear this?
Casting call for a sea captain.
A sea
age
captain.
Early to mid-20s.
All right, let's unpack that. Cliff, your thoughts on a sea captain for season 3 of Rings of Power? This obviously must be a significant featured role.
Well, could it be Elrond's missing brother, Elros, who we see in that tapestry on the wall in Numenor? Could that be him?
Well, we'll get to that in a sec. By the way, the other the other thing I want to say about Amazon Prime Video is that the final episode of season 3 of Wheel of Time is out this week, and they still have not renewed that show. I don't understand. If you're not renewing your
Jimmy.
second biggest fantasy show already, Wheel of Time was incredible this season. Why isn't it renewed? Why aren't you allowing fans to scream it from the top of the lungs, watch Wheel of Time right now, get involved, get part of the conversation, because it's coming back for more. This is the time that you tell people. Anyway.
I agree very much. It is the time to make that noise.
Sauron will
Jimmy is correct. I'm standing corrected that Elros is long dead. I don't know why I said that. So yeah, Anarion. How about Elendil's brother, Anarion?
Is a sea captain?
Why not?
Oh yeah, the sea is always right. The whole deal.
Yeah, it is.
Isildur was just trying to be his older brother the whole time, and he wasn't living up to standards of his brother's set. Anyway, Sauron.
Oh, I mean not Elendil's brother, but I mean Isildur's brother. It looks like my brain cells are not really working properly today. I meant to say Isildur's brother, Anarion. That's what I meant to say.
Clip, what do you make of Sauron
what is wrong
being
with me?
much more violent and menacing than season 2, which was only the beginning?
Well, that's because in season 1 and season 2, he was using subterfuge and wicked disguises. Now that his disguise is blown and he's not using subterfuge anymore, I would expect the character to use blunt force. And don't be bothered by the idea of Sauron being a blunt instrument. He can do that just as well as he can be a finessed and lightly handled weapon of disguise and subterfuge. But if Sauron is going to be a blunt instrument, fine, that's totally fine. That means the gloves are off, is what that means.
What do you think he's being more violent toward? Do you think he's violent toward his people, the orcs? Or where do you think the violence comes in?
Because he is trying to use coercion and fear to
not violence.
bring... Coercion is always violent, whether it's
it's the opposite of violence. It's passive.
No, you can coerce someone with blackmail. You can coerce someone with blunt force. That's equal, totally equal. Are you kidding?
All right.
And yes, you're right. I have been distracted by something. Zap Vera Sepa. You're right. I
Time
have
jump
been distracted.
isn't as major as some think. We already expected that. You know, I don't understand why they put a time jump in the press release for season 3. Calling out a time jump in the press release for season 3 feels like another misdirection and another chance at a mystery box. Neither thing that anybody wants. Like, it's not a big time jump.
How long does it take to build Rivendell? How long does it take to build Imladris?
How long did it take Elrond to build Brimby's forge? Remember, Rings of Power Season 1 starts out with schematics and them telling Elrond, hey man, Brimby's like, hey man, I need help building my tower forge. How long did that take? We don't know, because they didn't explore it.
Good point.
In fact, we never revisit the construction of it. And Elrond doesn't even have anything to do with Elrond's storyline for the rest of the show. Don't understand. All right, another bulletin from Fellowship of Fans. A new faction of elves, which involves a book elf character. Unpack that for me, Cliff.
A new faction of elves? Well, that could be the woodland elves who live in Greenwood the Great, because we haven't seen them yet. All of the elves that we've been dealing with, all of them, have been the Noldor, the Noldorin. So if they're going to show a different faction of elves, they might be taking us over to, you know, the forebears of Thranduil and the elves that were there in the Greenwood before Thranduil was alive.
Would it be Thranduil? Would it
Orifer.
be Legolas and
That's
Thranduil?
right, Orifer. Yeah, Greenwood elves.
Orifer was Thranduil's dad, right? So would it be?
That's right.
Is Legolas on the scene?
No, Legolas isn't going to be here in the story, no.
Is Thranduil on the scene?
Maybe as a tiny little boy, maybe. Maybe. Let's see, when was Orifer born? I'm looking it up right now.
All right. Do you think it's Do you think they're talking about Glorfindel? Because the chat room is divided on this. What do you think?
I don't even have him here. The Sylvan Elves. Maybe. Yeah, you know what? The Sylvan Elves is what we're thinking about here. Do you think Thranduil will be alive at this point?
No,
Maybe.
I'm asking you about Glorfindel. Do you think Glorfindel is coming into the show?
I've always wanted that to be true. Yes, I've wanted that for a long time.
Does Glorfindel lead a new faction of elves that we haven't seen before?
No, because he's also Noldorin. Glorfindel is also one of the Noldor.
So we can, guys, you heard it here from Cliff. We can scratch Glorfindel off the list because he is not a new faction of elves.
Well, although this announcement pertains to, you know, these leaks coming from Fellowship of Fans might not cover the other material that they're working into the script. So it's not completely off the list, is it? I mean, not completely, if we're being honest.
Well, season 3 goes straight into the War of Elves and Sauron, but that was part of the official press release. That's literally straight from the press release. Season 3 starts is in the middle of the War of Elves and Sauron. So Sauron's gonna be violent in this War of Elves, and there's a new faction of elves coming in.
The Sylvan Elves, excuse me, if they're going to really stick to this, and if this leak is accurate, then we're probably going to be looking at Sylvan Elves, who are
Give me a name.
Establishing kingdoms in the Greenwood.
So Thranduil and Orifer.
Yeah, Orifer. Anonymous Girl says, I think Celeborn's absence would have to be explained as coming back from Valinor or being a prisoner of war. Yeah, one of those two. Exactly. One of those two things is most likely.
Guys, I'm sorry.
No.
this
Celeborn
show
needs to be
will
there.
grind to a halt when Celeborn shows up.
But Galadriel has some emotional healing to do, especially after, we know that she's been wounded by the crown of Morgoth, and maybe having her husband there will help. I think it's really important to have him come back.
What?
Yes. Remember we reported that she's wounded like Frodo was wounded by the Morgul blade? So Galadriel has some recovery to deal with after being wounded by the crown of Morgoth that she stabbed with.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye, Katie. It was really, really awesome to have you with us in the live chat. Have a great night, Katie. Thank you.
All right. So your best guess based on this. Let's give a final thing. The new faction of elves involves a book character. Your guess is
Sylvan elves, and my guess is going to be Orifer, knowing that will connect us to Thranduil. That's what I would guess.
Thranduil.
Yep. Now I'm looking at some family trees here in the back pages. Family trees. And these are all Hobbit family trees.
In other news, Amazon, the official account of Amazon, posted this. Are they lovers? Worse. Yes, that's an official.
Really? Is that Australia New Zealand Prime Video doing that?
It's still an official account.
Oh gosh. Oh man, that.
But what?
Yeah, okay. I don't want to talk about that.
All right,
okay.
but you know what we will talk about?
What?
I do want to talk about this. You and I were texting about this yesterday, and our Discord blew up over this. This is from an interview. With Variety that Morfydd Clark did, and she explains, I was thinking that I was Celebrian.
Yep.
Because I don't think I could fathom that it would be Galadriel. She read the scripts. She was told what she needed to train for. She was told what she needed to read in books beforehand to prep.
But they didn't even tell her the character she was playing. Isn't that odd?
They didn't even tell Charlie Vickers that he was playing Sauron until episode 3. The filming of episode 3. They didn't even tell Sauron he was...
Crazy, isn't it?
She had read the scripts. Because they did chemistry tests and they did auditions with real scripts. They were early scripts. Those scripts did change to the final, but they did rehearse with scripts. And of course, if you're an actor or an actress, I mean, part of the process of committing 10 years of your life to a show and a character like this is you want to know what you're getting in for, right? Like, it's a big commitment to say we want 10 years out of your life, probably some of the best 10 years of your acting career where you can get huge salaries to commit
the prime, so to speak, the prime of your acting career within that time frame, and we're going to isolate you from all other jobs and keep you down in New Zealand. And they didn't even tell her that she was going to be Galadriel. That really boggles the mind. It boggles the mind.
So
a play, it's Tennessee Williams. It's going to be big. It's going to be wonderful. And they don't even tell the actress that she's playing Stella. It boggles the mind. It boggles the mind.
Everyone's smart. We know that all the actors are very intelligent and very well read. We've met them in person. They were at our Comic-Con parties. Cliff, you and I have hung out with them in LA. Like, these actors are well read and smart. They knew what they were signing up for. And so here is the actress herself saying, I signed up for this show, 10 years of my career, and I thought I was playing Celebrian. And I've been telling you guys this who watch the show loyally, that if you think about it, the show makes a lot more sense. And a lot of the problems of the show really fix themselves. If we're not dealing with Galadriel, if the show really is centered on Celebrian, it makes sense that her her military unit at the beginning of season 1 mutiny on her because they don't respect her. It makes sense that Gil-galad disrespects her and puts her on a boat to Valinor.
Yep, it does.
Cliff,
it also makes sense that there's a big kiss in season 2 between her and the man who would become her future husband.
And
it does make a lot more sense.
Those were written at the same time as season 1. Those season 2 scripts were written in 2019.
Precisely what they pointed out in the chat. Very observant. We have the most observant people in our live chat. It's really true. And yeah, it does make things align, much more in alignment.
So it
really does.
Because Cliff, what if I please
but it doesn't make sense when you look at Halbrand, because Halbrand's effort would not have been to try to get into the mind waves of Celebrian and use her for advancing his situation. The whole Halbrand thing only makes sense when you realize he wanted to get into the psyche of Galadriel and position himself in favorability with the Elven Smiths of Eregion and others. So, yeah.
But her
that's
daughter
the only thing that doesn't quite fit.
Her daughter's pretty close. Like, imagine
her only daughter. Her only daughter.
Galadriel's only daughter brings home her new boyfriend, and it's this cute little boy named Halbrand. He is in the family.
That makes sense too. That would all okay. Now I see what you're doing with that. Okay.
But you know, and something really the thing that and shout out to Dr. Nosy in our Discord. But Cliff, you know what really sold me? What really sold me on this quote confirming that she expected to play Celebrian on this whole show.
Yeah.
Is this scene.
Which one? Oh, okay.
So
yes, okay.
In episode 3, because Galadriel ends up on Numenor. She goes on that slow motion horse ride on the beach
to the amazing library. To the amazing library.
Imagine it's Celebrian, not Galadriel. So imagine Celebrian going to this mythical Superman Island of Numenor, going to this amazing library and seeing this portrait on the wall for the first time and recognizing her bookworm BFF, Elrond.
Yeah.
And realizing that, oh my God, my friend is actually a prince. And his brother used to run this island.
Yep. True that.
And if you remember the show, the camera really zooms in on this painting. The camera takes its time and to show that the character is absorbing what she is seeing, right? They take
it's changing her perspective of something.
And it's changing her perspective of something.
Yeah.
And from the show that we got right now, where that's Galadriel, everyone, like, it's not a big deal for anybody. Like, everyone just shrugs and it's like, she's an ancient elf. Of course, she knows this story. But if Morfydd thought that this was Celebrian, if the script's originally written as Celebrian, and this scene is supposed to play for Celebrian, discovering something about her best friend, and by the way, future husband.
Yeah, I get it.
This is the scene that sells it, that this character, the lead character in this entire show, was supposed to be Celebrian.
I just double-checked, and Elrond's twin brother, who chose to be a man instead of an elf, so he chose to be mortal. He was given a lifespan of 500 years. So at this point in the Second Age, he would have passed away. This is very much true. Have a good night, Otaku. Thanks for being with us on the chat. Fascinating.
Why did Celebrian leave for Valinor before everybody else?
Well, Celebrian left for Valinor because she had a poisoned wound after she was held captive by the orcs in the Misty Mountains and
What
tortured
happens
by
at
them.
the end of season 2?
Galadriel gets a poison wound and is suffering from the crown of Morgoth being stabbed into her chest. Yeah, okay.
Dude, it's all there. This show was supposed to be about Celebrian.
Yeah, I guess so. When you know what? It looks like the barometric pressure is really revealing the weather pattern. That's really what the pattern of all these things suggest, doesn't it?
Celebrian wanting revenge on Sauron for the death of her father? My father, Celeborn, was killed by Sauron? You can still keep that fake death in. And it explains why Celebrian is on the hunt to avenge her father. This is so filmmaking 101, awesome classic tropes that we're playing with. Everything makes more sense.
Well, it also is very likely that they changed it. Maybe they changed all this stuff to be Galadriel when they decided they were never going to bring in her daughter, and they decided to make a hybrid story of stuff they wanted to use for Celebrian and never would, and giving Galadriel a lot more things to do. Maybe? I don't know.
Does this feel like, let me ask you this, Cliff, you've worked in the biz most of your life. Does a studio exec, Jennifer Salke, maybe Jeff Bezos himself, said, hey, love your scripts, we're going to shoot it, $1 billion budget, but I didn't pay $1 billion for a character I've never heard of, Celebrian. It's got to be Galadriel. Like, the show is Galadriel. That's what I paid $1 billion for. Do you think that this feels like Celebrian's story was then had to retcon in a couple key ways to make it Galadriel?
So. Looking at what Laswen has told us in the chat, I don't feel it shows it was meant to be about Celebrian, just that there's all those story elements that they're borrowing from. And I think that is equally likely as anything else.
Is that...
And but what you're saying is maybe Bezos said, no, I see what you're doing with this, but make it all Galadriel. And so they just took the building blocks of what they had anyways, kept it that way, and added the cosmetic character skin of Galadriel. Maybe they changed it that way. I don't know.
And if they had to do that, then you would understand why McPain would pull away from the Galadriel stuff, because they're like, the romance aspect of Halbrand and the girl makes great television, but if it's Galadriel, the fans are going to riot, and they did.
And they did, yes. I see
Even
now.
after they pulled back in the edit, the fans still said, I ain't on board with this.
If only we could have the estimable writers and showrunners join us in a conversation, and we could ask them themselves. How about J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay? We invite you once again to come onto the OneRing.net Torn Tuesday and talk with us about some of these crazy concepts that we're trying to figure out. It would be an interesting conversation. It really would. And it would really clarify that kiss more than anything.
The
it would
kiss,
really
the stabbing,
clarify all of that.
The stabbing with the crown.
Yeah. Well, now it means if they're going to use the stabbing with the crown as a poison wound for her, that means they're taking out the subplot of Celebrian being kidnapped by the orcs of the Misty Mountains. Interesting.
Let me ask you this, Cliff.
Yes. Ask me. AMA. Ask me anything.
Please. I'll bring it up on screen. If this show was centered around Galadriel, does all of the marketing get more of a pass from fans? Remember, this was a very controversial cover. This is not the Lady of Light that anyone expected. If they had opened up and said this show is centered on Galadriel's daughter, Galadriel, she's headstrong, she's lost her father, she's on the revenge path. You don't even have to say father yet, right? That's a reveal for episode 7 of season 1. She's on a revenge path. She's still finding her way in the world. She's got her BFF Elrond. We, the audience, know that they're going to fall in love later, but she doesn't know it yet because he's just her best friend. So
that's dramatic irony. That's the whole wonderful element of using dramatic irony, so that the audience knows more than the characters do. That's how that works.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Everything makes more sense if it's Galadriel.
I get it. T.D. Matthew says, this might just speak to how carefully Morfydd Clark did her research. She's read the books so well that she recognized the Galadriel-ish stories that were integrated. That might actually be true. Interesting.
So, all right, let's take that at face value. They're using the big famous characters for the $1 billion show that everybody knows and is familiar with, right?
Yeah.
I know Galadriel. My mom even says that, right? But they apply some deep lore to other characters to her. Was, in your opinion, as a Tolkien scholar, producer and writer of Ringer's Lord of the Fans, published author with the People's Guide of J.R. Tolkien, and all around man about town, was that a good choice? Do you appreciate that they took canon events from another character and applied it to Galadriel?
It strikes me as something suitable for the compression required in television. That's a suitable thing. Instead of completely cutting a character out, integrating another character's story into a larger continuous whole. For example, when the Disney studios wanted to tackle the Chronicles of Prydain, they didn't do 1 book out of 5. They took 2 books out of 5, and they blended one other main villain and blended him to another person, so they had an amalgam of characters that they used in the Black Cauldron. So their evil villain in the movie, the Horned King, was never really the main bad guy in the books. In the books, it was the other main horrible villain. But the studio writers and the animators went through a process of, or rather bizarre process, of adapting things from different elements of characters and blending them into one character. So we have seen this happen before.
Yeah,
it has happened
classic
before.
movie
Yes.
thing. The other thing that was brought up, Cliff, is remember.
Good night, Susan. Thank you for being with us.
Remember in the intro of Rings of Power, the incredible season 1, episode 1 intro, where they talk about the history of everything and the elves and war and Sauron. They make a big deal. They make a big deal of elves didn't have a word for death. We didn't know death. We didn't even have a word for it. Right? That's in the show. Only Elrond knows the pain of death. Elves understand the pain in theory, but Elrond lost his brother.
His twin brother, who made a choice to no longer be an elf. Yes.
That's what I'm saying. So, coming back to this, Elrond...
I really appreciate Green Lantern's podcast. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you with us in our live chat. Let me read this. Galadriel, being a good warrior, would still piss people off. Her jumping off the boat and swimming back to Middle-earth would still make them mad. Yes, that's true. But it's what we're hypothesizing here is the possibility that there was interference at the highest executive level, where the big boss man Jeff Bezos said, I didn't pay $1 billion to have a Celebrian show. And maybe they were going to have Celebrian in early seasons lead into an introduction to her mother, Galadriel. And maybe that all changed radically because of orders from up top. At the top of that
but
chain.
also let me point
Maybe.
this out. In Green Lantern's podcast is
we're just
our,
speculating
our
here.
admin
Yeah.
and an awesome dude Varking. So let me respond to that Varking. Yes, some man children on YouTube and Twitter would have complained about, a woman swimming across the ocean, but it would have been less of a concern. It would have been no concern, and even less of a concern for any of us, if it wasn't Galadriel. I think a lot of the online discourse that have all infected our brains and our feeds and our comments, and I'm still blocking people on our Facebook page for saying nasty things about Ismail on his birthday, but there is a big hurdle between introducing a character that you've never seen on screen and taking her on an adventure, versus taking an existing character that everyone loves, Galadriel, and changing her. There's a big difference between playing with a unknown.
I get that.
And changing a known. And Star Wars fans have been dealing with it because everyone has an opinion on whether they did Luke Skywalker correctly in anything. Did they do Luke Skywalker correctly in The Mandalorian? Did they do him correctly in The Last Jedi?
In The Mandalorian, befriending Grogu. Of course.
Like everyone has an opinion because he's an established character and everybody has their own headcanon. Don't play with established characters. This sounds better. Celebrian swimming across the ocean sounds better. Yes, man children would have complained about it, but not as bad.
No,
because you're
the
not.
The reason why people could have had, and I did, like many others I know, the most legitimate complaint about having any elf, male or female, whether they're a great warlord or not, jump into the middle of the ocean and choose to just swim all the way back to wherever away from Valinor, then you have to say, why would you burn the boats? Why would you have the kin slaying at Alqualande, where they killed each other, elf killing elf, in civil strife? You did all that because you needed the boats. You needed the bloody boats to get across the ocean, because that means Tolkien himself established that even an immortal Noldorin elf of the House of Finarfin would not be able to swim across the entire sea and get all the way to Middle-earth. So why would you even burn the boats? Why would you have that whole episode? Right. It was just frustrating to have any elf jump ship at all. It just seemed crazy to me. Anyways.
But the other point I was trying to make about this painting, Cliff, is the prologue of the actual show says elves didn't know death. We didn't even have a name for it. That's in the show.
Until they did.
But when Celebrian, when the female character of the show comes across this painting, she now understands death. She understands that Elrond, her best friend, is the only one of us that understands death in a deeper way that nobody else does.
True. Yep. I would go as far as to agree with you on that. Yes.
But let me take it a next step further, because if we agree with the show concept that Celeborn did die, this means that she understands death herself because her dad died, and now she understands that Elrond knows death.
You mean her brother? Yeah, her brother.
Celeborn.
Isn't? Oh, okay. Oh, you mean the Celebrian from the point of view of having her dad Celeborn being dead.
If Celebrian
within the weird canon of the show, you mean, yes.
Within the canon of the show. Okay. If Celebrian has a chip on her shoulder because she's the only elf that knows death, because Celeborn died and she's on a revenge path for her father, and she comes across this painting and realizes her best friend Elrond also knows death because of the death of his brother. Suddenly there's a bonding moment for one of the most legendary love stories and love tragedies of all the Legendarium.
Yep, I getcha. I get you. I see.
Like
I
the
see where
love
you're at.
story. Elrond and Celebrian love story is one of Tolkien's wonderful relationships. And it all starts to make sense now why they made a big deal in the prologue about elves didn't know death. We didn't even have a word for it. But then Celebrian knew death because her father dies, and then her brother, and then her uncle dies, and then she finds out her best friend also knows death. And now they have a bonding moment. Like, oh my God, I understand this man. I understand this man more than ever.
So you're telling us that if we look through some of these details, we can see traces of DNA of the earlier character that Morfydd Clark was going to play, and it leads into Morfydd also thinking she was going to be Celebrian. Very interesting.
Let's go back to that.
Very interesting. Now there's no real way to confirm any of this, but by deduction, by powers of observation and deduction, maybe we could see some things going on here that suggest, well, I'm going to be the first person to complain about unnecessarily killing off Celeborn. You, Justin, would probably cut me off and say Celeborn should stay dead and never come back on stage again. Dead. No hashtags.
Okay. Does Celeborn?
I think that it was a mistake to not have Celeborn in the very beginning, but now, if we were looking at the original DNA of what they were writing to be, this is Celebrian centered, and then somebody up at the top of the executive chain said, no, change it. I want this show to be centered on Galadriel, not her daughter. Then maybe the DNA is just still in there because the writers and the showrunners couldn't effectively remove all of their building blocks and build the whole Lego castle all over again. So maybe some of this remaining stuff is a hint of what they had planned way before. But I still think it's a mistake to have Celeborn off stage for 2 seasons.
And one of the other criticisms, and
nobody asked me, but
Heart of Strider, really appreciate your comments there. He says, I love the live action adaptations. I love both trilogies and the Rings of Power. You are not the only one, but you are the lucky one, because we are all lucky, because we all love these shows in different ways. I love the Hobbit trilogy more than Cliff does. So I don't think Cliff has ever even seen the extended edition Battle of Fine Armies. So
are you kidding? It's the only one I ever watch. I just watched it 3 days ago.
Okay.
I just watched it 3 days ago. In fact, I've been watching a lot of first reaction YouTube videos where you see strange people from different backgrounds and cultures who are having their first reactions to watching the Hobbit trilogy. I've been enjoying that a lot. It's been very interesting to see other people
on cinema, there's
around the world.
Joke with the Hobbit, but so Cliff, on the Celebrian thing,
yeah.
Where was I going with it?
Can we speculate the next logical question? Put it forward that Celebrian will come to the show and be part of the show and will start a relationship with Elrond. And I'm looking for a family reunion. I'm looking for Celeborn and Galadriel reunited with their daughter, and her properly being a new actress playing Celebrian, and she gets married to Elrond.
You want Celebrian already existing in this world right now. You don't want to go through the whole...
Yeah, but I can't figure out how they're going to spin it. How they're going to do it.
Do you think... Here's the problem with the show, is
you mean
in the one scene where she talks about her husband Celeborn, she does not... She's talking to a child. She's talking to a 10-year-old. And she does not mention her young daughter.
Good night, Garfemau. Good night, Otaku. Thank you for being with us.
You would think
she doesn't mention her daughter at all. And also, Celeborn doesn't even get a mention in season 2. Season 2 completely goes past us, and there's no mention of Celeborn again.
That's why I think Celebrian doesn't exist yet, and that's a troubling thing for the show. I don't feel that it's fair to time skip the creation of Celebrian. And
the time jump is probably for the benefit of just construction and building Imladris. Rivendell has to have some time to be built because where they are at the end of season 2, there's nothing but a waterfall and a river valley.
Sure.
So they need time to build the whole thing.
Yeah. But my final thought on the Celebrian versus Galadriel thing is, the show just starts to make a lot more sense if you're just watching it as Celebrian's story. And one of the major criticisms from fans of all ages, even people that love the show, one of the major criticisms has been throughout season 1 and season 2, Galadriel, the oldest and wisest of elves, would not have done that. She already knows these things. One of the biggest complaints about the show is Galadriel knows these things. She's an elder. Like, she knows Numenor's history. She knows all the players on the field. Like the show pretending that she's going through a journey of self-discovery and discovering these things. Like, she already knows these things. Because she's so old and she's one of the first and she's one of the wisest. So that's that's my final thought of, like, you solve all of those complaints when it's not Galadriel making this journey of self-discovery. It's Celebrian discovering more about her best friend's past and her mother's past.
Yep. Fascinating take. And I guess if there were other people who did more rewatches than me, because I didn't do a lot of rewatching, but if you go back and look, there might be other clues that reveal the previous version of the story that might have been shifted from what they originally wrote, and then someone said change it, make it all Galadriel, and then they did make it Galadriel, but they kept the DNA of their storytelling intact with all the stuff that had been already written. Maybe there's more clues upon another rewatch. Maybe.
Last one says the showrunners have confirmed in writing that Celebrian doesn't exist yet.
Okay, so that means that.
And what I don't
that
want...
That means that Celeborn and Galadriel have not taken the time to start a family. And we learned from the posthumous publication of The Nature of Middle-earth that was edited by Carl Hostetter, famous Tolkien scholar. We learned that the elves only procreate during times of peace, not during times of war. So that has to be held into account as well. If they're going to do it properly and hold that into their construction of the story, then that should be part of it as well. Elves would only bother to raise a family and go through the lengthy gestation process of bearing a child. And the elves have a very different biology than mortal men. So yeah, they would only do that during peacetime. We have to remember that.
Yeah, so that's troubling. So
yeah.
But the other part of it is, I don't want Celeborn's return in the show to be the impetus of, like, we got to start a family. Like, I've missed you so much. Let's make a child. Like there's so many conundrums involved with already having him dead and having Celeborn come back onto the scene. Like, I feel like it's cheesy TV to, like, oh, my long lost husband is back on the scene. Let's lock him down and let's start a family while you're still here. That's not Tolkien. That doesn't feel Tolkien. And it's complicated.
Why is that? Why is that? Is that because Peter Jackson didn't use a title card that said 17 years later and Gandalf reappears in the Shire? Is that because you didn't get that? Maybe you've been trained like a Pavlovian dog to have this reaction to the way Middle-earth is narratively presented in movies and TV. It was a very specific moment in The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey when they cut back 60 years and Peter Jackson deliberately uses the subtitle 60 years earlier. And then, bam, we're there with Martin Freeman instead of with Ian Holm. But I wonder if the showrunners on Prime Video, The Rings of Power, are going to use a title card that says 100 years later or 150 years later. I wonder if they will do anything like that at all, because they have not done so far. They've just been compressing timelines and the lives of different people in Numenor and on the shores of Middle-earth to be compressed into what they need convenient for the purposes of their storytelling. And so I do wonder about that. I do wonder.
For counterpoint purposes, Cliff.
Yeah.
Can be in the Discord did post this. To shut down this rumor and allegation that the show was meant to be about Calabrian.
Yeah.
Canby says, the first 2 seasons introduced a character born in Valinor who witnessed the destruction of the 2 trees, whose brother was killed by Sauron before moving to Middle-earth and becoming a bearer of one of the elven rings of power.
Yeah.
And this is saying Calabrian to you?
Good point. Very good counterpoint. Excellent counterpoint. That might be the stuff that they all changed. Maybe that's the stuff they rewrote because somebody said, don't make it Calabrian, make it Galadriel, and that's all the new stuff they added. Maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't there. So
that's the gossip. That's what the fans are talking about this week. Zephyr
has a great point. Elves marry one another within their age range. If Calabrian doesn't exist yet at the beginning of season 3, you mean, then Elrond is a major creep. That's another problem they have.
That's another problem. I'm telling you.
That's another problem they have. You're quite accurate. Quite
the show starts to be really good and really interesting if you take Galadriel out of it. And we're just watching Calabrian discover ways to love her best friend. And the
problem, I know what you're saying, but the problem of not mentioning Celeborn at all through season 2, and the bigger issue of not mentioning their daughter. She does mention, my husband went missing in battle, and we never recovered his body, and he was never seen again. And they leave it at that. You know, when she's having that conversation with Theo in the woods, right after the eruption of Orodruin. So it's just so strange and interesting that Celebrian was never mentioned in all of the 2 seasons. They have kind of painted themselves into a corner somehow with that. Yeah, it's a bit strange. It's a bit strange.
So Cliff,
I'm intrigued by what they're going to change, what they're going to do.
Let me ask you this. How do you get this show back on track and make it a show that everybody can fall in love with and make it a water cooler show like The Last of Us and Andor that it is about to be? Do you retcon the beginning of season 3 and maybe her head is pulled back and it's Galadriel's mirror? And Galadriel has been showing her daughter just a little bit of what her life has been like through Galadriel's mirror. You know, some things that have come to pass, but some things that may not have. Right? It's Galadriel's mirror. It's a little magic mirror that, has a little bit of truth and a little bit of possibility. Would you allow for a little retcon of that?
I wonder.
Should she stay Celebrian? Or should she stay Galadriel? Or
she has to stay Galadriel. They've put their eggs in that basket, to use an Easter metaphor. Yes, I am thinking about you, the Prince of Egypt, sitting over there on my shelf. But yeah, I'm sorry.
I agree, Varking. Make the show dwarves only, and we're all having a good time, and you have a 100% hot water cooler show. I'm looking forward to
make it dwarves only. Hey, Varking, you're brilliant, by the way.
Remember,
really
the
brilliant.
dwarves got more rings than the elves. Why are we even focused on the elves? The dwarves are more interesting, and Tolkien didn't write a lot about the elves. So take us on whatever journey you want, Amazon, because there's a lot more story that you can make up there. and I'm on board.
Make it all about dwarves. Well,
Balrog show. Yeah, let's get a book accurate Balrog that he's just an 8-foot man of wreathed in flame and shadow. He's just a big barrel chested. Anyway, we're getting off track. Anyway, that's
what are you talking about?
That's the conversation of today. So what do we cover today? We got Lord of the Rings news, Hunt for Gollum. Scripts are due next month. The studio's really excited. Had a great conversation with Philippa. Hugo Weaving is out. Kate Blanchett is out. Andy Serkis is going to be shooting the Batman 2 at the end of the year, so they're not going to go into production until next year, which means the movie doesn't come out until 2027.
That's right.
Breaks.
Yes.
So get your acting reels together if you want to be a character or an extra in the Hunt for Gollum. You have 1 year to get your agent and your reel together, so you could be in the movie or work on the movie in some capacity. That would be pretty fun. We had
I agree.
We had some great choices for casting Gilrayan, Rosamund Pike from Wheel of Time, Sam Neill as Elrond from Jurassic Park. I would love that. I love the fans that are
I want to see Jacob Elordi in the mix, although some people in the chat don't agree with me.
Yeah, young Aragorn's going to be a tough recast. You just saw in the chat room how difficult it is going to be recasting Aragorn.
Very difficult, yeah.
Yeah.
And, of course, there's a great advantage to having it be an unknown actor like they did with Orlando Bloom. That ended up being a great advantage because it was great casting. It was great casting.
Speaking of Orlando Bloom, I don't have a graphic for this, so I'm just going to tell you. We just got word last night. The movie Orlando Bloom did after the success of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was his first movie ever. Orlando's first movie ever was Lord of the Rings. What is the first big blockbuster movie he does post Lord of the Rings?
Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. No, isn't that what he did next?
Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven.
He did Kingdom of Heaven before he was Will Turner?
And we
in
are
Curse
getting
of the Black Pearl.
A 4K restoration of the director's cut, the best cut of Kingdom of Heaven.
Okay.
It's an incredible movie with Orlando Bloom and David Thewlis and and the guy that I want to be a Blue Wizard, Mahmood. It is not only getting a 4K release, Kingdom of Heaven director's cut is coming to theaters for a nationwide rollout.
I would go for that. I would love to go and see that and check that out. The director's cut in 4K, that sounds pretty darn cool to me, actually. That sounds really fun.
So, we're getting it all. Oh, are tickets already up for it?
Oh, I better get on my AMC app.
Let's see. Let's bring up AMC app. Kingdom of Heaven. It's already got a page on AMC Theaters.
Let's go.
There you go. It starts Orlando Bloom. Top billing, Cliff. Top billing. Orlando Bloom. Liam Neeson. Martin Sokas.
Oh, speaking of Celeborn, how could I have forgotten? He's there. Celeborn is right there with Orlando Bloom in Kingdom of Heaven. Rounding it out
with the Celeborn discussion.
Brings it all back home, doesn't it? Comes full circle.
Look at that. So, Kingdom of Heaven.
That's so awesome.
Orlando Bloom's heralded follow-up to Lord of the Rings. Yeah, because when did Return of the King come out? 2004? And then... 2004.
No, Return of the King came out in 2003.
And then the extended edition came out in 2004, and this came out in 2005.
That's true.
Last one says Pirates of the Caribbean was before Kingdom of Heaven. All right. I was mistaken. Maybe the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
Maybe we should double check our IMDb facts before I was the one who had all the facts wrong today, so
let me ask
we have
you
our
this,
moments.
Cliff. Final question, and then you can take
before we
us
go.
out.
Yes.
Final question, and I want you guys to respond in the chat. If Kate Blanchett really is retiring from acting,
I'm very sad about that. Very sad.
And Peter Jackson is making not one but multiple movies set in the Lord of the Rings universe in the Third Age. Would you like to see Morfydd Clark step in to the movie Galadriel role?
No. You need to recognize the separation of church and state. Sorry. You need to recognize the separation of Studio Ghibli and Studio Disney. They're separate, both very creative, doing very interesting things, but never the twain shall meet. The answer is no, sir.
Really bold statement from Clifford Broadway.
No.
All right.
Nope.
Take us out, Cliff.
I want to say my deepest thank you to you, Sir Justin, for pulling all the strings behind the curtain in the Emerald City. Pay no attention to that little man behind the curtain, and yet we acknowledge you. Thank you for helping pull on the levers and the strings so that the wizard can actually come out and talk to people.
Yet the original actress who got screwed over, Heart of Strider. Are you referring to Mira Sorvino?
Who? What?
Remember
the original actress who got screwed over? Who was that?
Remember, Cliff, this was what the Harvey Weinstein lawsuit was about. Harvey Weinstein told Peter Jackson that he was not allowed to cast Ashley Judd. Arwen,
that's right.
And Mira Sorvino as Galadriel.
Yeah. Interesting. But what does Ashley Judd look like now, 25 years later?
Wouldn't that be a little thumb in Harvey Weinstein's face to cast Mira Sorvino as the new Lady of Light?
Mira Sorvino, you're so funny. I tell you what, there's possibilities there. You guys are so awesome. TD Matthew, it's totally cool. She could do it, but I'm just, I want Kate Blanchett to come out of retirement for only one person. Ian McKellen, who she loves so much. I want Ian McKellen to convince Kate Blanchett to come out of retirement. Please, dear Sir Ian, if you're listening, talk to your gal pal. Get on the phone with your gal pal, Ms. Kate Blanchett, and convince her to do the Miyazaki thing and come back out of retirement. Join us for one more time. What does Thorin say in the Battle of the Five Armies? Would you march with me one last time? One last time, okay? Maybe Ian McKellen could convince Kate Blanchett to come out of retirement. I haven't even seen her new movie, Black Bag. I have to go to the theater and see this. I've got my AMC membership, so I can go and see it. It's all covered. But yeah, I want Kate Blanchett to come back for a little cameo, just a beautiful little cameo. That would be so cool if she did. But I don't think anybody could do it, except Ian McKellen might be the only person to convince Kate to come back.
I wish we knew someone that knew Ian McKellen personally and worked on his website once upon a time.
What's it going to take to get Daniel Day-Lewis to come out of retirement and join Middle-earth? There's some great possible roles that he could do in Middle-earth. It'd be great. But anyways, it's been a dynamite show. My next acknowledgement before we go is for you guys in the live chat. Everybody on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube, and Facebook. Everybody coming in to join us. It's fantastic to have you. And Varking, you're the very best. The bestest of the best from our Discord. Laswen, you're such a sweetheart. Thank you for being our moderator in our chat today. Wonderful people who have not only corrected me factually today, I need to check my head at the door so we can all start out even, right? But I appreciate it. I get a lot more out of this experience because the community that we love so much is here to be part of our fun conversations with us on this lively little corner of the interwebs. Thank you for joining us on Torn Tuesday. You can follow us on all socials at The One Ring Net, take out the dot, and you can follow me on Blue Sky and Instagram at QuickBeam2000. I know it's kind of a Y2K thing, but it was funny to me at the time. And it happens to be, I'm stuck with it. 25 years later, I'm stuck with it. It's never going to be Quick Beam 2025. That's never going to happen. So look for me, Quick Beam 2000. We can chat, have a great time, and keep up the good fight, everybody. Keep on rocking in the free world, as a famous rock and roll singer once told me. You guys have a very safe week. Be careful. Love one another. Look out for one another. We're going to be here with more mischief and rumors and analysis on Torn Tuesday next week at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's right, Pacific time. Set your clocks. 8 o'clock Eastern. We'll be here for another Torn Tuesday. Until then, good night and good luck. Or better yet, buenos noches y buena suerte. Bye-bye, everybody.
Quick Beam 2000 was the last year you had hair.
You're funny.